Hello Swirly Scrappers. Well, today I'm going to be sharing some things I learned using the 10-second Studio VerDAY pack. So it comes in a brass, bronze, copper, and my favorite, the iron. Okay, so I'm taking the Bo Bunny chippies here that we received in the August kit, and we're going to test these out. So first we're doing the iron. Always remember to shake the paint well before you use it. That's going to get the little metal pieces mixed up well so you get a good effect. So the first two are done with the iron. Then I did a couple with the bronze. Then I'm going to do one with the brass. And we'll do one with the copper as well. Just remember, before you use it, shake it up well. That way you get the little metal bits mixed in well and you get a good effect. Okay, so we need to set that aside now and let that dry. It's recommended that you let that dry for about an hour before you continue to the next step. Okay, I'm also going to do a chippy. This is something I received from Dusty Attic, and since the iron is my favorite, I'm going to use the iron paint on that. We're going to set all of these aside now, and we have to let that dry for an hour. Alright, now I'm going to try something here. I'm going to actually use a stencil here and dab the iron paint through the stencil onto this chippy, and let's see what happens. So now while it's wet, on your second layer, you're going to go ahead and spray the VerDAY. And remember this piece that we got in an old kit? I'm going to try some iron on there as well and see how that looks. Okay, now we're ready to do our second layer on our butterfly. So do the iron, just dabbing it on there with a paintbrush. You don't want to cover the entire butterfly, just bits and pieces of it. So here we go. We've done some of the iron, and that's dry now. You can see how it's reacted there. It looks kind of rusted. Another iron one there. I'm just trying to get a better picture for you to see that. It's kind of hard to get the camera to focus. Love these. These are just gorgeous. Okay, and these would be with the brass here. And then we've got our bronze and our copper. Okay, and then you can see on the dream, the stenciling didn't work really awesome. You can't really see it on there. It might just be because we've got such small areas, so it's hard to get the definition of that stencil, but it still looks cool. And then here it is on the metal, and that turned out really awesome also. So I think I'll be doing some more of that, but we'll use that on the layout later. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do some of the iron paint on a mini canvas. I believe this is a 3x3 canvas. So I'm just doing a layer on all sides. I'm not worried about having an even coat, having a little bit of uneven coat, sloppy texture. That's perfectly fine. We're going to set that aside and dry. Now this is a tag that came in the Technique add-on, and I actually just covered the tag with black gesso. I wanted to see what would happen if we just used black gesso. And then the iron paint through the stencil. Okay, now we're spraying the VerDAY on. Alright, see how that turned out? A lot more definition there through the stencil, so I think that's a good thing to try. I like how that turned out. Okay, now I did another tag where I just painted the iron paint on it and then let that dry for the hour, and then came back and dabbed on some iron paint, and while it was still wet, sprayed the VerDAY, and here's what that looks like. So that way you can get a good comparison of the two. So there's the black gesso on the background, and then the iron paint through the stencil. And then the other one is just the iron paint both ways. Alright, so now I did some of the iron and the VerDAY on the Prima gold trim, and I'm just going to share with you how I finished making this little mini canvas. That was so fun. And this is a trinket that we got in a previous kit. So I'm just attaching that with some 3D gloss gel. That stuff will hold on to anything for you. Okay, and some of the flowers from the kit. Just going to create a little flower cluster here. That's a twine. I like to make little bows and put them in a point and stick them under the flowers. This flower just to add a little bit of color to this, okay? And some more twine bow in there. All right, now I'm trying to figure out where to put that gorgeous little butterfly. We're going to stick that right on top of that flower there. And now I'm just looking for a few Timmy sayings to add onto the canvas. And we're going to be able to call that done. So, oh, got to add some of the balls. This is from Jen, the enabler, back from Swirly Camp a long time ago. So this is a sprig that you can buy at Hobby Lobby. Has gobs of branches of these little balls, and then we cut those apart and add those onto our flower clusters just to give it some more, make it fuller. So there's the completed little mini canvas. You can see I painted around the edges and did the VerDAY spray around the edges as well. What I didn't show you is I used the Tim Holtz Sunburst stencil on the top with the VerDAY. It did not turn out too well, but there you go. Thanks for watching.